Every world built on magic hides a darker truth. In the wizarding world, it's not the spells, the wands, or the dragons that reveal its greatest contradictions. It's the house-elves, the creatures who clean the halls of Hogwarts, cook for the ministry, and obey every command without question. We laugh when Dobby snaps his fingers or when Creature grumbles under his breath, but their story isn't funny at all. Behind the humor and loyalty is a painful truth. That wizard kind built its entire civilization on servitude. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the true history of house elf enslavement, how it began, why it was accepted for centuries, and what it says about the moral heart of the wizarding world. And if you enjoyed these deep dives into the hidden and uncomfortable corners of Harry Potter lore, hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment telling me what you want to uncover next, because every story has a side that's been forgotten. Long before the founding of Hogwarts, wizards were not the dominant force they became. They lived scattered among Muggles, concealing their powers to avoid persecution. But as wizarding communities grew, so did their arrogance and their need for control. Somewhere during the Middle Ages, wizards encountered a race of small magical beings known for their domestic talents, the elves. Early records from the magical history of Britain describe elves as independent woodland spirits with their own societies. They weren't slaves. They were free magical folk, skilled in natural enchantments and domestic magic, often trading services for protection or resources. But when wizards began consolidating their power, they saw the elves' magic as useful and exploitable. No one knows exactly when servitude turned into enslavement, but by the 14th century, house elves were considered property. It wasn't a law passed overnight. It was a slow corruption, contracts rewritten, debts twisted into lifelong obligations, and cultural pride turned into magical bondage. Eventually, the elves who refused to serve were hunted. Their magic suppressed, their independence erased, and thus began a system so deeply rooted that even the good wizards of later centuries accepted it without question. House elves aren't just enslaved socially, they are bound magically. Their servitude is reinforced through enchantments woven into their very nature. They can't disobey direct orders from their masters, they can't leave without permission. And if they betray or rebel, their own magic punishes them, often violently. But the most chilling part of the system isn't the magic itself, it's the belief that created it. Wizards taught elves that obedience was virtue, that loyalty defined their worth. Over generations, that belief became so internalized that many house elves began to police themselves. That's why Dobby's story is so powerful. He was the first elf we ever saw fighting against centuries of magical and mental control. Every time Dobby punished himself, it wasn't just comic relief, it was centuries of trauma manifesting in one small, terrified creature trying to break a spell that ran deeper than any curse. In contrast, Creature shows the other side, an elf so conditioned to worship his masters that he carries their prejudices like sacred commandments. He isn't evil, he's what happens when loyalty becomes a cage. What makes house elf history so haunting is how easily the wizarding world ignores it. The Ministry of Magic never abolished elf slavery. In fact, it reinforced it. House elves were categorized as non-beings, a legal term for creatures deemed incapable of self-governance. Their labor kept wizarding homes running, Hogwarts functioning, and the ministry efficient, yet no one paid them, thanked them, or acknowledged them as equals. Even Hogwarts, a school meant to represent learning and moral integrity, relied on an entire unseen workforce of house elves. When Harry, Ron, and Hermione enjoyed their feasts in the Great Hall, hundreds of elves cooked, cleaned, and prepared everything underground. It's one of J.K. Rowling's most quietly brilliant details. The idea that the most beloved place in the wizarding world is literally built on invisible labor. When Hermione discovered this, she founded SPEW, the Society for the Promotion of Elfish Welfare, and became a target of ridicule. Even her friends mocked her, but her passion wasn't misplaced. It was simply too early for a world that didn't want to see its own reflection. And that's the point. In the wizarding world, injustice survives not because of active cruelty, but because of collective apathy. The tragedy of house elves isn't just physical, it's psychological. Centuries of servitude reshaped their identity. Most elves genuinely believe freedom is a punishment. They see self-worth only through service. It's a textbook example of generational conditioning. When Dobby gained his freedom, other elves called him disgraceful. Winky wept when she was freed by Barty Crouch Sr. because to her, liberty felt like exile. They weren't broken by wizards, they were trained to believe that being broken was normal. It's painful and brilliant how Rowling mirrors real-world systems of oppression. The elves' story is a mirror held up to every society that justifies inequality by saying, that's how it's always been. Freedom for Dobby wasn't just about a sock, it was about relearning self-worth. That one piece of fabric symbolized centuries of rebellion waiting to happen. After the Battle of Hogwarts, the future of house-elves remained uncertain. Dobby's death wasn't just a heroic sacrifice, it was symbolic. He died free, the first elf to give his life by choice, not by command. In the years that followed, Hermione reportedly worked within the Ministry to advocate for elf rights, drafting reforms that challenged centuries-old laws. But even then, change came slowly. Some elves refused freedom, others feared it. The scars of servitude don't fade easily when they've been carved into your culture. Still, the seeds were planted. Dobby's grave, marked simply with "Here lies Dobby, a free elf," became a quiet rebellion in itself, a monument to individuality in a world built on obedience. And maybe that's the real lesson. Freedom isn't granted by masters or governments, it's claimed, one act at a time. So what does this say about the wizarding world and about us, that even the most magical societies can be built on injustice, that comfort can blind good people to cruelty, and that every great hero, even Harry himself, can walk past exploitation without truly seeing it? Rowling never wrote the elves as villains or victims. She wrote them as truths, reminders that progress requires discomfort, that equality takes more than words. It takes breaking centuries of silence. When we rewatch those Hogwarts feasts or hear Dobby's squeaky voice, it's tempting to smile and move on. But maybe we shouldn't. Maybe the real magic of the story is realizing that behind every miracle is a moral test, one we still haven't passed. The story of the house elves isn't a side plot, it's the heart of the wizarding world's hypocrisy, and maybe it's redemption. Dobby showed us what freedom looks like. Kreacher showed us what history costs, and together they remind us that every act of kindness is a small rebellion against the system that says, know your place. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. It genuinely helps more than you think, and as always, thank you for watching, and peace.